I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct. I've been challenged by so many people, and I don't frankly have time for total political correctness. And to be honest with you, this country doesn't have time either.
Yes, political correctness is out. American exceptionalism is back, ready to re-empower our republic as one nation under God by restoring our unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives, with your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet, baying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
I don't give a damn what you think you are entitled to.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together we seek to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your hosts of the nationally acclaimed, globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos.
And greetings out there all across this great republic and around the world. It's that time for the Conservative Syndicate coming to you once again, live coast to coast and around the world, where it's prime time, sometime, all the time, somewhere. Glad to have you with us today. Another broadcast week, beginning, on a lot of anticipation this week. A lot of anticipation, and I think a lot of anticipation by the end of the week that will be just the same as today. I think everything that's taking place this week, everybody's sitting around with bated breath. The media is just waiting to jump and pounce and begin another feeding frenzy. But I think at the end of the week, you're going to find not a whole hell of a lot has changed. And I think there is a very, very distinct reason and purpose for that. We'll get into that some today. We got with us today, Bob Cardosa will be with us at the bottom of the hour. And we're going to talk to him about Medicaid. I've been doing a lot of thinking and research on this Medicaid, just the program itself, not how it's ties in with Ryan Care or Obamacare. I just want to know better how it works. And I'm going to get Bob to expound on that a little bit as to the mechanics of how Medicaid operates. And, of course, the beginning of the Supreme Court justice hearing on Neil Gorsuch, which is going to be, I think, exciting. But I've got something I want to lay out about that, because there's two things. And then the FBI investigation today with James Comey, these hearings and all these other things, I think you're not going to see results right away. And I think there's a very strong reason for that. I want to expound on that. So, and in the second hour, Jonathan Dunn will be joining us from Ireland. Jonathan's with the Blaze and one of our affiliates here, the Lantern Buzz. And he'll be on next hour, and he's got an interesting thing he wants to talk about the G20 dropping free trade from their platform. And that's something I hadn't heard about, so we'll talk about that. And he's got a couple other things on his how plate. So having said that, let me get my partner in crime on here. Joe, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, John. Doing good. I think this is the week either the Republican Party lives, or the final death knell of the Republican Party occurs this week. I think we'll see the plug will either be pulled or it'll be coming off of life support, one or the other.
Yeah, do you think is this all? Are you basing your contention here on the Ryan Care bill?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the Republicans have an opportunity right now, and it starts this week. It should have started 8 weeks ago, but now it's this week, and now it's their opportunity. They have an opportunity to do exactly what they were elected to do, and they either do it or they don't. And if they don't, well, they're done.
Yeah, I agree. I think, but the history of the Republican Party over the last 20, 30 years is that they have become just so qualified in snatching defeat out of the jaws of victory. It's just that you hand them everything on a silver platter and they just can't figure out what to do, or they don't want to figure out what they want to do. I was at a meeting last night. I hitched my wagon to an organization out here last month, and last night was my first full balls to the wall, fledged actions with this particular organization. It's called the Eagle Forum out here. And there was about 75 people showed up at this meeting last night. And we had quite a conversation on the Article 5. Article 5 was about a 45-minute presentation by Steve Jacobs from the Institute on the Constitution. I remember a couple of weeks ago we had Jake McAlvey on here from that organization. Steve is the local guy out here, and he did a presentation last night on the unconstitutionality of an Article 5 constitutional convention for the purpose of ratifying the Constitution. It was a really kind of a in-depth analysis and interesting. Some things came to light to me that I was not aware of. First of all, the purpose of a constitutional convention is not necessarily to add amendments to the Constitution. The primary purpose of the convention is to correct errors in amendments already published or already in the Constitution. That was an interesting take on it. He had a really interesting argument for not having term limits, which I thought was really strange coming from a conservative, but his argument had some validity to it. It had to do with lame duck. You know, he said if you got a senator in their last 6-year term, they're basically a 6-year lame duck. And so that's 6 years they sit around and do absolutely nothing. I said, well, then what's the solution? It's why you vote them out. You don't have term limits. You just vote them out.
Heard that before.
Yeah, I said, I said
that's all the more reason to repeal the 17th Amendment.
Well, that was one of the things he talked about last night, about how amendments that have worked against us. And he named the 17th Amendment. That was, big deal. I also learned some things as far as the evolution of the Electoral College, which I was not aware of, in terms of how we started out and how we ended up. That was his 27th Amendment. He was saying we should eliminate. Also, never should have been come into being. So there was some interesting conversation on that. There was a reason I was bringing all that up. It was just the idea here that it demonstrated to me in a lot of ways. Anyways, joining this forum, I guess what I'm talking about is just hitching my wagon to an actual organization, say, okay, I'm going to fly with these guys. I'm going to go wherever they go. And really, really interesting evening. And I forgot the point for bringing it up, but I'll probably think of it later or maybe at midnight tonight. I don't know. It just, but you had an interesting weekend also, didn't you? Did you end up going to that event you were talking about?
No, I did not go to the Congressman's town hall, but I did find out from reports that there were more left-leaning individuals there. But typical as it would have been a really waste of my time to go, because typically how this guy is he will not commit to tell us how he's going to vote on the Ryan Care bill. He's not going to say which way he's going, which way he's leaning. Here's what he said. There are 300-some people, 435 people up there right now, and they're all trying to change it. So he doesn't know how he's going to vote. Yeah. Well,
I know. Now you said that, I know what I was leading up to. Your comment earlier about whether or not the Republican Party is going to live or die this week. And that was, I gave a short dissertation. They were asking me to update them on, I have become the current affairs manager for them or whatever. I'm supposed to get up and talk about whatever I feel is relevant at any particular time when they have the meeting. And I got up talking about the leaks, the security leaks, and the Romney Bush thing that Scott Faulkner was telling us about how they infiltrated the inner circle and all this other stuff. And I just told him flat out, I said, I know a lot of you guys here are hoping to revive the Republican Party, but I'm here to tell you the Republican Party is dead, and it's just a matter of who decides to pull the life support, because this party is never going to change. You all are sitting here telling me that Donald Trump is going to save us, and Donald Trump is not going to save us. We have to clean house, and if you guys continue to vote people like Mitch McConnell and these people into office, and then it doesn't matter. And I said, and I'll tell you, I go as far to say this: I don't even think that Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell care if they have a majority. I don't think they care if they have a Republican president. I think they're just worried about preserving their own asses, and that's the way it is. And I was surprised how many people came up to me after the meeting saying, I'm so glad somebody finally said that.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm like, really? Like, why aren't you saying it? Well, because I didn't know how to articulate it. That was the thing. I didn't know how to say it, but the way you said it made perfect sense. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know, you got the message. We cannot continue. You know, I used the Einstein analogy. I said, you can't continue to keep doing the same thing and expect different results. And it's like, you're not gonna uproot the establishment on either side of this thing. You are stuck with what you've got because you have chosen for decades to keep these people in office, and now you can't get them out. It's almost virtually impossible to revamp this party and recapture the party. You can't do it because these people will not go. And if they are voted out, somebody like them will take their place. It's only until we decide to, as a collective, decide, okay, we're going to go in a completely different direction. That's how we're going to resolve this. And until we do that, we can talk here every election cycle about what the Republican Party needs to do. They're not going to do it. Period. Yep. It's not in the cards anymore, folks. You got to wake up, smell the coffee. This is reality now. Trump showed us this. He exposed this. Trump himself is not the answer. He is a Band-Aid. That's what I'm telling you. He is a Band-Aid that has given us a 4-year window of opportunity to take a hold of this thing and change it.
4 years, John. It's not in 4 years. It's more like 20 months.
Yeah. Well, I did mention the 2018. I said, you guys haven't, you know, they're talking about all the line and the speed. I said, boy, you guys haven't seen anything. This time next year, when the midterms are on the horizon, you think it's bad now? Wait till next year. Wait between now and then. Wait to see what happens, especially after these hearings. If Trump is found, if there's no charges filed and there's nothing going on with this guy and the narrative is killed, they're going to create something else and it's going to be even worse. So I'm glad you brought that up because after our break, we need to play a little clip I have. Yeah, we'll do that. That's all I was trying to lead into that without taking so much time, but you know how it is. We got to take a break, folks. The Conservative Syndicate will be right back.
We're not arguing. We're explaining why we're right. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Attention taxpayers. If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
That America must put its own citizens first, because only then can we truly make America great again.
And now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives.
All right. We're back here at the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, Joe Matthews, along with Joe Hakos. And Joe has a clip he wants to play. I think it'll tie in very well with the way we ended our conversation before the break. You have the con, Joe.
All right. So today they had the hearing up there where Comey and let's see, the admiral, I can't remember what the admiral's name is, but they were up there testifying in front of the Congress, and this is a clip of Trey Gowdy, and Trey hits upon John's favorite subject, one of his favorite subjects, and I'll just let you listen to it, and so you can catch it, and there's going to be a little quiz after I play this clip. So this is Trey Gowdy and talking and not quite questioning, like where were you, blah 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 kind of deal to Comey. This is just almost sort of like a conversation, but a conversation to get on the record though. So Trey Gowdy and Director Comey.
Because nature abhors a vacuum. And right now, you can't answer most of the questions, either by policy, by law, or because the investigation has not been complete. Therefore, a vacuum exists, which people in my line of work are more than happy to fill. So I need you to fill. I need you to do it with all deliberate speed. But Director Comey, I think it's also important for my fellow citizens to take note of why the system that you come from, the one that I come from, is respected, and this system that I'm in now is not. What is hearsay?
Information you don't know of your own personal knowledge, but learned from someone else. It's an out-of-court statement offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. I was trying to be a little less lawyerly.
Well, we'll go with your answer. And it is almost never admissible in court. How about anonymous sources? When you were in the Southern District, could you ever call an anonymous source to testify in one of your proceedings?
No.
You couldn't even use hearsay unless there was some widely accepted exception. And what I've heard this morning in some cases is quadruple hearsay. So it would never, a newspaper article would never, ever be admitted as evidence in a courtroom. So the system we respect would laugh you out of court if you came in armed with a newspaper article. But in the political process, that's enough. Let me ask you this. Cross-examination. Why are you able to cross-examine witnesses in trial?
Okay, John, why are we allowed to cross-examine people in a trial?
Because the accuser has a constitutional right, or the accused has a constitutional right to face his accuser.
Okay, there's an even simpler reason: to get at the truth.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I just want to put that out there. So, are we going to continue on? It's we got about 40 seconds left on this.
Sure, go for it.
Why do we have a right to confront witnesses?
Well, it's embedded in our Constitution, and the reason it makes great sense is it's the crucible out of which you get truth.
It is the single best way to elucidate the truth, to test and to probe and to challenge and to test someone's personal exposure to the facts. Cross-examination is the best tool that we have. How do you cross-examine an anonymous source? How do you cross-examine hearsay? I hope that you go find every single witness that you need to talk to and examine every single document. People are counting on you two and your line of work to find the facts. And people are welcome to draw whatever conclusions they want from the facts.
So, John, this is directly at your favorite thing, the anonymous source.
Yeah, Mr. Anonymous Source. One of the things I listened to Adam Schiff's. I don't know if it was his opening statements or his closing summary for today. It was one of the two, because I came in kind of just before he came on. And one of the things, the way he was wording his, I think it was an introduction. It was kind of like what he was laying out as the left's argument about collusion and interference by the Russians and everything else.
I can't answer that. I can't
Well, it was the idea here that every time he would make some kind of statement as a fact, something along the lines of the emails, John Podesta's emails were leaked to WikiLeaks. But then he would use just what you're talking about here, the anonymous source, the allegations, the reporting by the networks and the media, mainstream media, as to the source of where these leaks came from. Guccifer was just a front for a Russian operative, okay? No evidence of that. No evidence of that, but that is their assumption. And this whole thing, as he was playing this all out, as he's putting these words down, what he's basically saying is, we have taken what we know and combined it with what we think happened, and we have therefore concluded that this is the way everything played out. Of course, we don't have any evidence to support that. But the sources that he was using, this is the thing I was talking about. He was talking about Carter Page and Paul Manafort and all these other people. He was naming them, and he's saying these people all met with Russian officials and this, that, and the other. And as it all began to play out, what he started doing was he started referring to the MI6 agent, Mr. Steele, over in England, who was the one that came up with all these things. All right, now this is the dossier. All of a sudden, this dossier that everybody blew off as being unverified and just a conglomeration of thoughts and wishes, now has become the center of what it is that these people are believing happened with the Russians. What Mr. Steele is accounting, this meeting took place and this is what was discussed. But up until today, all of us were led to believe that this dossier and this guy, Mr. Steele, who works for a private security agency now, by the way, and was hired by a Republican operative, let go, and then rehired by the Democrats, the DNC. So that in and of itself tells me that an anonymous source must be a liberal. Has to be.
Well, I don't know. We can't cross-examine him.
Yeah, because nobody knows. And he may not, he may be transsexual for all we know. He may not be male or female. He may be pansexual.
It might not even be matter. He could be antimatter.
Yeah. He could be the Force. Could be a member of the Jedis. It's amazing. But this leads to one of the contentions I wanted to get out today. I'm glad you brought this up. This hearing that is taking place right now, and we keep hearing about, okay, we got to get this investigation. We got to get it done. We got to get it done. The Republicans want it done quick. The Democrats don't. This is one of those issues, my friends, that really no one wants to resolve, and particularly the left, because the longer they can draw this out, the longer you can put Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer in front of a camera to spin the innuendos, to repeat the allegations, and all the time disclaim them why they're doing it. Well, we don't have evidence, but this is what we believe. And we just continue to do that, and we do it, and we do it, and we do it. They are putting in practice the typical Alinsky strategy of pounding home a lie till it punches through and becomes the truth. So at some point in time, Trey Gowdy's point here about the fact that you'd be a laughingstock to put the, anonymous source in front of the, say, well, my sources are anonymous, or my witnesses are, I can't disclose who my witnesses are, that kind of thing. They want to bring this narrative to the point that the effect of it is, in the court of public opinion, Trump is convicted, and of course that means what? Let's pass judgment. Now, what is the judgment? 2018 rolls around. We've got to stop Donald Trump. We need the majorities back. You got to give us the majorities to stop this lunatic, who, by the way, is in the process not so much being covered in the media. They had somebody discuss it last night, this forum I was at. The left is moving now to try to impeach Donald Trump under the 25th Amendment, the mental stability clause of the Constitution. So they can't do it with evidence. The quick fix, and even that doesn't matter. See, it doesn't matter whether Donald Trump is indicted or acquitted. It doesn't matter whether the charges are verified or they're not. What matters is the narrative. The narrative, keep punching it out there, keep punching it out there, keep punching it out there, and what you're going to have, their base has already bought it. Their base is convinced. I can tell you talk to any leftist right now, and they will tell you that Donald Trump, what? He's a xenophobe, he's a hater, he's a racist, and he's a crook, and he's in collusion with the Russians, and Russia helped him win the election. That's a given. But they've got to sway more people than that. They've got to sway that middle ground, the independents, the people that don't really want to take any position on anything but want to bitch about everything. Yeah. That's the intent here. We've got to get enough of those independents to buy into our narrative, absent any proof or evidence. And that's all we need to do, so that the next election cycle, we can simply go in front of the people and say, what? Once again, people, we want you to make a choice between the lesser of two evils. They're more corrupt than we are. That is the narrative. And the only way they're going to continue to do that is Trump has to be. I heard it today in the Gorsh hearing. Some of the commentators, one of the Republican commentators, or one of the Republican men said this. He said, senators, the judge is the one being confirmed here. Donald Trump is not the Supreme Court. Okay? Who was the other one? James Comey is not the Supreme Court. We're talking about an individual on the Supreme Court. And if you can, and he says, I hope you people during this hearing do not tie this man to the president or anybody else for the purpose of trying to discount his qualifications for the position that we're sitting here trying to confirm him for. A very valid point. Not very likely to be followed or adhered to, but a very valid point. So, I'm glad you played that clip, because that just kind of ignited me a little bit there with stuff that I saw today in this hearing with Neil Gorsh, and it ties in with the narrative. I have one other thing I want to talk about maybe later as to what we can see regarding the confirmation hearing of Neil Gorsh. That's not going to happen overnight either, and there's a good reason for that. So anyway, we got to go to our break here. When we get back, we'll have Bob Cardoso with us. I want to drain his brain a little bit, and probably all I can do. But we're going to try to get him to expand for us on how Medicaid actually works. I think that's important in understanding how this ties in with the Ryan Care bill and the current attack that's being leveled against it by both sides. So we'll be right back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate.
Red State Talk Radio, WRS Cleveland.
Red State Talk Radio is now available as a voice command on your Amazon Echo and Echo Dot by simply saying, Alexa, play Red State Talk Radio.
Red State Talk Radio on TuneIn.
Are you behind on your taxes? The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected. If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote at 800-790-4294. 800-790-4294.
You know, sometimes when you compare prices on products, you think to yourself, what difference does it make? The rates are all about the same anyway, but sometimes the rates are very different. Let me give you an example where there's a huge difference in pricing between companies. Vehicle protection plans. Look, if your car is 4 years or older, having a vehicle protection plan is a no-brainer. The trick is not to overpay for it. Here are the facts. The average price of a vehicle protection plan is $2,800, while the price of a TOCO warranty vehicle protection plan for most vehicles is just $1,500. The average down payment on a vehicle protection plan is $299. With TOCO warranty, there's no down payment. The average monthly payment on a vehicle protection plan is more than $160 a month. With TOCO, the average monthly payment is just $49. To get a highly rated vehicle protection plan at a great low rate, call TOCO Warranty at 1-800-987-1519. That's 1-800-987-1519. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, this is Leonora Cravota from Red State Talk Radio for MyPillow. I used to have trouble sleeping. MyPillow changed all that. I now fall asleep within moments of my head touching my pillow. That's how comfortable MyPillow is with its patented interlocking fill. MyPillow stays cool and does not go flat. Plus, it's machine washable and dryable. MyPillow has a 10-year warranty and a 60-day comfort guarantee. MyPillow is also the official pillow of the National Sleep Foundation, and it's made right here in the USA. MyPillow is now offering Red State Talk Radio listeners a 4-pack special with 2 premium standard or queen pillows and 2 go anywhere pillows. That's 4 pillows for the price of 1. To take advantage of this special offer, call 1-800-961-9194 and ask for promo code RedState. That's 1-800-961-9194, promo code RedState. Put sleepless nights behind you with MyPillow, the most comfortable pillow you will ever own.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
If you've got joint pain, let me ask you a question. Would you like a high-quality knee, back, shoulder, or ankle brace at little or no cost? But just in case your reception isn't great, let me ask you again. Would you like a pain-relieving knee, back, shoulder, or ankle brace at little or no cost? Well, if you have Medicare insurance, you could qualify for these pain-relieving braces at little or no cost. And these are high-quality braces. They are very comfortable, and they've helped thousands relieve their pain. Now, I'd like you to imagine going on vacation, playing with your grandkids, just living your life again without pain. The Mobility Hotline is a referral service that connects folks with Medicare coverage and other insurance to accredited companies offering pain-relieving braces at little or no cost. And don't you worry about the Medicare paperwork. They'll handle it all for you. And they'll deliver your braces for free. Call the Mobility Hotline now. The call's free. 1-800-557-6150. 1-800-557-6150. 1-800-557-6150.
Are you struggling with addiction or alcohol problems? If you're depressed, drinking, and using drugs, you may need help, and your insurance may offer coverage.
I knew I could get myself out of this. I just needed some hope and some help.
I took the first step to recovery when I made the call.
Call the Addiction, Hope, and Helpline now for a free assessment with someone who cares. Call Call 800-518-1573. 800-518-1573.
I feel like I'm losing control. I'm afraid I'll lose my job or even my family.
Call now for hope and help with proven, gentle recovery programs.
I never thought that I could be somebody who didn't drink and use drugs.
I'm in recovery, getting the help I need.
Call the Addiction Hope and Helpline now for a free assessment with someone who cares. Call 800-518-1573. 800-518-1573.
Red State Talk Radio. Real radio for real Americans.
Believe in yourselves, believe in your future, and believe once more in America.
And now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives.
All right, we're back, and this is the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives, and we're glad to have you with us this afternoon. I want to get a queue up here, get our good buddy Robert Cardoso online here with us, and I thought I'd already added him to the call, but I guess there we go. All right, we're going to talk with Bob today, try to get him to maybe explain to us a little bit in depth as to how Medicaid actually functions and how it works. Are you there, Bob?
I sure am, John.
All right, my friend. Hey, listen, I'm really kind of trying to get my head wrapped around this Ryan Care bill, and it's supposed to come. It's supposed to come up for a vote sometime this week. I'm not sure whether it will or won't. They're trying to, as we heard earlier before we came on the air with you, Joe's representative down there in Florida wouldn't state a position whether he's going to vote for this or not, because he said right now there's 335 people who all want something different. So there's, so we're not sure this is how it's going to play out. But one thing I do know, that I've so far in my research, is that the effectiveness of this bill is going to hinge on Medicaid and what Medicaid eventually becomes or ceases to become. And I was wondering if you could enlighten our listeners here today as to really how Medicare functions. Are you up on that?
Oh, are we talking about Medicare or Medicaid, John?
I'm sorry, Medicaid. I'm sorry, I get the two confused sometimes, you know.
Well, there's a lot of rules with Medicaid. And Medicaid originally was for destitute people with no net worth. And what happened was that the state that you live in, if they were participating to any extent with Medicaid, and the federal government used to split almost 50-50 the costs of that. And what would happen is that if you needed medical care or care in general, whether it be in assisted living, that kind of stuff, that if your net worth was below $2,000, then you would qualify for Medicaid, and the state would pick up your expenses for assisted living and medical expenses and all of those kinds of things. The federal government, it's a state program, but the federal government would, I was going to say donate, they would provide about 50% of the cost of that to the states and send off the states, and each state got a different amount of money depending on what program they were actually doing, and that's what happened. Now, under Obamacare, or the Affordable Care Act, they utilized a portion of Medicaid, and they were administrating the Affordable Care Act through Medicaid, which jumped up the cost of Medicaid exponentially, and that is the management system that manages the Affordable Care Act today. And the new program, what they're trying to do is to eliminate the federal portion of the Medicaid by either doing block grants, or depends on what they actually put through. The states are still going to have some kind of portion of Medicaid, and they're going to probably continue to administrate what is now called the American Health Care Act, and that's pretty much how Medicaid works, John.
Okay, now let's try to put this just a little bit of context to this. Would I be correct if I was to compare and say Medicaid is basically Medicare for those under 62 who are destitute?
You could say that, yes, but even if all you had was Medicare and your net worth, let's just say your Social Security was bottom line, that you didn't put hardly anything into Social Security, you'd still qualify for Medicare and be able to get Medicare. Medicare is a minimal amount of premiums that would be paid for by the government, and you still get that care. But Medicaid is a whole different thing. It's strictly for people who have no net worth, have no resources, and the states wind up paying for generally their medical care, their assisted care, and that kind of stuff.
Okay, so now Medicare, like Social Security, is something that we who spend our years in the workforce contribute to. Am I correct there?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so what we're talking about in terms of Medicare is we get to a certain age, 62, and you say, or 65, I believe it is. So they say, okay,
65.
Yeah, 65 years old. You now start withdrawing based on what you have put in. Just like an insurance policy, you might live to expend all of that you put in and maybe more, and you might not. So we're talking about the risk. But the point I'm getting at here is that Medicare is basically a tax-funded program for those over the age of 65, whereas Medicaid is something that the government has come into an agreement or a partnership with the states that says you pay X number of dollars, we pay X number of dollars, and this is for people who have not virtually, literally not paid anything into any system at all from which they withdraw. It's pure charity, if we can call it that.
That's correct. That's correct. It's totally a socialistic program where Medicare, you are required by law to sign up for Medicare at age 65, or you're penalized if you don't do so. Medicaid, you could get Medicaid if you're a teenager. You could get Medicaid if you're a young adult. Medicaid is a welfare program.
Okay. All right. Now, in line with that, one other question I have before I start launching into my theories and contentions about things. There are certain things that I've been reading about Medicaid that they reimburse expenses. For instance, a woman today under the Affordable Care Act, if she purchases privately an insurance program that provides abortion, she can have an abortion and Medicaid will reimburse her the expenses for that. Under the Ryan Care bill, they want to eliminate that. Am I correct there?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so we're actually talking about taxpayer-funded abortions through a backdoor subsidy, which is now called reimbursement rather than payment. Am I correct there?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so the lie that Obamacare would not fund abortions is a lie.
Yes, it is.
Okay, now, so the argument
First of all, John, you know that Obamacare was actually providing money to Planned Parenthood.
Oh, yeah. Well,
a fairly substantial amount of money to them that were providing abortions and that kind of stuff already. And that's a given. That's what we already know that.
Yeah, and so, but the argument being presented by Planned Parenthood, because under this new budget that Trump is out there touting, he is saying that basically they want to pull funding for Planned Parenthood. Now, Planned Parenthood is saying, oh, you're going to screw up all our other services because we don't use this money for abortions. But Medicaid allows some reimbursable expenses to those who have abortions through Planned Parenthood when it is determined it's for the health of the mother.
That's correct.
Okay, so another lie. All right, so so when we start talking about the idea of phasing out Medicaid, which is what the Trump administration is doing, and they're saying basically what they want to do is give block grants to the states and allow the states to manage the programs, but the federal government will still mandate what the states have to offer in terms of coverage. Am I correct there?
Yes, you are.
All right. So how does this become anything other than Obamacare version 2.0?
It's Obamacare, not on steroids, but the other way around. It's a Obamacare-like, I think, is how it's been referred to.
Yeah.
And you know, John, the one thing you can always tell when a politician is lying because their lips are moving, and they're all trying to make sure that what they're doing is getting the approval of their constituents. And a lot of times that is not what the country in general wants. And, it's sort of like, Trump got elected by the electoral process, not the popular vote. That's the same thing that's going on when you start seeing them fooling around with what they describe as reimbursements, as opposed to all they're doing is changing the definition of what they're doing so that the general public doesn't understand it. They are convinced, and they're probably right, that the majority of us are just plain stupid. We don't care, or we don't understand it.
Well, I'm not so convinced that the Congress as it is right now is determined to convince constituents. I think Trump is trying to do that. He's out there holding his rallies. He's doing what Obama did during Obama's administration when he wanted something passed. He went out and he campaigned on it. I have nothing against that. That's the strategy he's choosing. However, what I'm getting at here is that what we're really listening to is we're just being sold the same snake oil in a different bottle, and we're calling it something else. We're when we talked about the tax mandate for Obamacare, and Obama's people kept saying it's not a tax, and Roberts said, John Roberts in the Supreme Court says it is a tax, but since Congress isn't stopping you from doing anything, you go ahead and do what you want to do, that kind of thing. So that it's using these words that spike the average American, and they hear it. And what they're trying to do now is they're trying to paint the vision once again that the Republicans want to push grandma over the cliff by taking away her Medicaid. And so I'm sitting here looking at it going, well, again, it supports my argument, and I think Joe's in alignment with me here, that what we need to do is whatever tax dollars are going into federally subsidized health care need to cease from being taken from taxpayers. They need to turn the health care situation over to the states. The states put it on a ballot, and they ask the people that live in those states, do you want state-subsidized health care? Let's vote on it, and are you willing to pay for it through your taxes? Let's vote on it.
And I think you need to go one step farther, though, Joe, and that is that I agree with everything you said, as long as our federal income taxes are reduced by the same amount of money that they were using to support Medicaid in the first place, and then have the state tax make up that difference.
Well, that's what I was just saying. That money that the federal government is taking should all of that should go to the state, which I don't think is right either, because the federal government still has their hands on it. I think it should be they should quit taking it. And the states now come to the residents of that respective state and say, look, we want to subsidize health care, like they're trying to do right now out here in California. Gavin Newsom has just introduced this initial legislation, state-funded health care. He wants to get away from the federal government and just do it as a separate entity. So we say, okay, now we put it on the ballot. Do you people want to pay more taxes for the state to run a health care program? The state votes yes or no, and whatever happens, that happens. The federal government's completely eliminated. That's my, and I just want to make sure I had my facts lined up with Medicaid before I came out and said this is my official position, what you have just done. You've confirmed that for me. We got to go to a break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion here with Bob Cardoso on Robert Cardoso Live. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
There is an old saying, children should be seen but not heard. At no time is this more apparent than when politicians speak. The Conservative Syndicate.net, the adults in the room. Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. History affirms a vibrant civil society thrives on freedom of conscience, religion, and choice. Any society absent these qualities stifles individual responsibility and accountability, thus enslaving its people by denying them the potential for goodness, creativity, and altruism. To that extent, oppression, coercion, and totalitarianism are multiplied exponentially. To counter such outcomes, the American Freedom Alliance was formed. The AFA is a nonpartisan, non-aligned movement which promotes, defends, and upholds Western values and ideals. The Alliance strives to build an international coalition of citizens of the West who together promote and protect moral values, democracy, and freedom. To find out more and become part of this valuable asset in the preservation of freedom and all its rewards, contact us at AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. That's AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. Let freedom ring. And now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives.
All right, hey, we're back, and this is the Conservative Syndicate. We're already hooking back up with Bob here. All right, Bob, we're back. We're back.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing, boys?
All right. I want to thank you for that, for confirming. I guess the research I've been doing actually paid off. I'm pretty close to. I think I'm pretty solid now on where I stand and why. Even more so, why I'm against this Ryan Care piece of legislation. And before we move on to the topic here, Joe, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Well, just understand that the Ryan Care bill gives the states the option to do the funding via the block grant. Have the option to do whatever. They could take it over, but if they take it over, that means they get less money. So none of the states are going to do that, and it's going to stay the status quo as far as that goes.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
But the premise is, Joe, that if they do this, then the federal government is, in effect, overtaxing us. And they need to give us back that tax credit as a refundable credit for this year, and let the state go ahead and make up the difference so that we can straighten that out so the state doesn't actually lose what used to be a subsidy.
Yeah, that's going to happen. California is going to take over whatever. And
they call us a progressive state, Joe.
Yeah.
We're not a state made up primarily of only retirees like you guys are.
Retirees. We don't even live here, Bob.
Yeah, we're sitting. Joe and I are blessed. We have the VA, and unless we're overthrown by a socialist government, that will continue. But I was just my big thing is the idea of putting block grants into the hands of the states, and then but continuing to mandate what the states have to offer. That is cutting off your nose to spite your face, in my opinion. And so, I agree that the tax dollars should go back to the taxpayer. The states, let's get back into the federalist idea of if a state wants to run a health care exchange, then it should be up to the people to decide how that comes about being. Now, having said that, I want to move on if I can. We've got about 6-7 minutes left with you. They started the confirmation hearing today on Supreme Court Justice nominee Neil Gorsuch. I don't know exactly how to pronounce his name. Gorsuch? Gorsuch? Okay.
Yeah.
And after listening to the preliminary, everybody stroking everybody and telling everybody how great they are and what great Americans they are, what great patriots they are, and as I'm listening to all this, and I started thinking, what started rolling around in my head is this. The Democrats have two reasons for wanting to delay. They're not going to be able to stop the confirmation of Neil Gorsuch, whatever his name is. Gorsuch. Okay, I'll have to practice. Yeah. I'll be up at 10:00 tonight practicing this name. I don't know what it is with my dyslexia. Sometimes I just can't get these things to process right. But anyway, there's two advantages, or two things that the left wants to do here. One, and it's similar, very similar to what they're doing with these hearings on Russian collusion between Russia and Trump. It's just dragging this stuff out, and the reason they want to drag it out and everything else, I believe this confirmation hearing is going to drag out because, one, I think that it's payback time. They want to really make the Republicans pay for not confirming Merrick Garland during the Obama the last year of the Obama administration. But to another point, we've got lower courts here who have stopped Donald Trump's executive orders on restricting travel from Muslim countries or from the Middle East, depending on what term you want to use to describe this. And if they can get this into the Supreme Court with a 4-4 split, they stand a very good chance of this going back to the judgments of the lower court, even though the Ninth Circuit, which really blew me away, has completely torn apart these arguments by these judges that have issued these stays against the implementation of the executive order. I was reading their judgments from the Ninth Circuit, and they're like basically telling these judges in Hawaii and Washington and Maryland, you guys are clueless. You have no idea what you're doing and why you have to be politicizing this, because everything that is written in that executive order is based on Donald Trump's authority to do what he says he's going to do. You don't like it, that's too bad, but he has not overreached his authority by doing this. And I wanted to get your take on that idea. Do you think that's a viable strategy by the left? Delay this and hope that the Muslim thing falls back in the hands of the lower court rulings and completely destroys any attempt for Trump to do what he wants to do?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's viable, but I do think that that's what their plan is. I do think you're going to see a confirmation probably around the 5th of April on Gorsuch, because I think that the Republicans are going to do whatever is necessary to get that confirmation, and they have the wherewithal to get it done. I do agree with you that the reason that it's so important that the conservatives put Gorsuch up into the Supreme Court is that there are a lot of issues that are not getting to the Supreme Court. They're just waiting for us to get Gorsuch in there so that things are a little more heavily weighed on the conservative side to get some of this legislation passed and stop arguing with it. And I think that's really what the Democrats are blocking, because the man is eminently qualified to be on the court, and so they're just playing games with him. No question that when you start listening to the questions tomorrow, they're going to be asking pointed questions about how he's going to rule on certain things. And the truth is, if he's going to be ruling on some things as a Supreme Court justice, he needs to recuse himself from actually making those comments, because he can't tell people what finding he's going to have before it comes onto the court.
Yeah, well, I know one of the big things Feinstein went after him today about was his rulings on some issues as an appeals court judge dealing with corporations. In my mind, I'll tell you what popped up in my mind. Why would the Supreme Court be trying anything to do with corporations? That's not the function of the Supreme Court. You know, it's not DC. There's so many cases that make their way up to the Supreme Court that should never be there in the first place. Don't qualify under what the job description of the Supreme Court is. So we're like, okay, she wants to paint this guy as a friend of corporate America. And I'm like, what does that have to do with ruling on constitutional issues? You're talking about something more along the lines of maybe a civil lawsuit or something like that. You know, a liability lawsuit or something like that. What's that have to do with the Constitution?
Her problem with there is Citizens United when the Supreme Court found that corporations could make contributions and be involved in politics and in electing a representative. And that's where her big problem is, because that, she would like to see that get reversed. It's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen, and I don't know why she would, because she receives money from it anyways. We're out of time, Bob. I wanted to give you got about 45 seconds to plug your show.
This happens to me twice a week. I run out of time. I don't understand that. Anyway, listen to you folks. What you need to do is to listen to Joe and listen to John and get my app. That way you can listen to me every day without having to worry about what John and Joe are saying about me, or what I'm saying about them. I'm on every Monday through Friday from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific time. Just go to get my app. Go to your app store, search Robert Cardozo Live, download it. It's absolutely free. You can listen to me 24/7 at your own convenience without interfering with John and Joe's show, because you want to know what they're saying so that you'll know how I'm going to respond to them on Mondays and Fridays when we do our simulcast. Hey, guys, have a great evening. Have a great week. We'll talk to you on Friday.
All right. You take care. All right, guys. Top of the hour here. Edward's Notebook, commercials, and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Oh, my goodness. So the statist Republicans trotted out Obamacare Light. I feel it is yet another insult to the American people. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, so now we, the people, are possibly being forced to wait indefinitely before there will be any serious tax cuts because the powers that be decided not to cut one single tax until after Obamacare is replaced. One of the excuses used to drag the process out is certain Senate procedure rules. And also, if Obamacare is totally brought up for a vote, then the progressives like Chucky Schumer will filibuster and prevent any progress. To that I say bunk. Because if they would have done a better job of defending the medical marketplace when Ali Obama was foisting his socialist health-damaging system upon us, perhaps the dilemma they now refer to wouldn't be occurring now. So basically, this drip, drip, drip approach will do little to relieve the burden now faced by the average American who has to endure it, unlike Congress and President Trump, who enjoy a far superior form of health care. Meanwhile, this Step 1, Step 2, Step 3 approach kicks needed tax reductions further down the road. Those midterm elections will be very interesting, to say the least. I'm Ron Edwards.
Blowing away the myths and revealing the truth. You can continue to blow away the myths with Ron Edwards on Facebook, Twitter, and theronedwards.com.
We're not arguing, we're explaining why we're right. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Attention taxpayers. If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. 866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct. I've been challenged by so many people, and I don't frankly have time for total political correctness. And to be honest with you, this country doesn't have time either.
Yes, political correctness is out. American exceptionalism is back, ready to re-empower our republic as one nation under God by restoring our unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives, with your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet, baying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
I don't give a damn what you think you are entitled to.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together we seek to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your hosts of the nationally acclaimed, globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos.
All right. Hey, we're back. Hour 2 right here at the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos. I hope you got something out of that last hour. I really needed to clear my head about this thing because you hear so many things coming from so many different directions, and I just sometimes my mind just goes into fact overload, and you end up having so much information that none of it makes any sense. So I hope you got something out of that. I hope we were able to clarify it for you. Joe, I want to get your take on this. Talking about the Supreme Court confirmation here, what I floated at Bob here in the last hour, do you think that the left might just try to draw this thing out, hoping that this Muslim restriction order from Trump makes its way into a 4-4 split?
Are terrorists Muslims?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yes. That's what's going to happen. They're going to try to do whatever they can. But, if there were smart people in the Republican Party, they wouldn't let it happen. And they would just, hey, like Senator Ted Cruz said last week, hey, we have the majorities in the government. We should start running it.
Yeah, exactly.
Start running the damn thing. Act like you're in charge, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, well, and that going back to what the point we were talking about at the very beginning of the show. My contention is I really, really believe this. And, I know it may sound negative and everything else. I really do believe that the Republican Party, as it stands today, could care less about whether they have a majority or not. The cry or the call for a majority is just saber rattling. It's just like, it gives the impression that, yes, we want to do something and we're dying to do something. And the only reason we haven't done anything is because we don't have the numbers. The stars are not aligned. But yet the stars have aligned, and they're still standing around going, let's just take our time here. And so this idea that, I don't think the Republicans are going to rush to try to get confirmation from Neil Gorsuch.
Let's just get the numbers. The Republicans have 52 seats, a 52-seat majority in the Senate. They only need a majority vote in the Senate to confirm Gorsuch as a Supreme Court justice. They only need 51. They don't need 52. They need 51. The only thing that is the Democrats can stop that process by filibustering, and you need 60 votes to stop a filibuster. Well, I'm sorry. There was a certain guy a long, long time ago named Harry Reid that said, screw that. We don't need to worry about that. We'll do whatever we want. We have a majority. We don't need to worry about being able to stop a filibuster. And they went on, and lo and behold, they didn't worry about it.
Yeah, now, what my understanding is, so we just keep everything in a row, the facts in a row here. My understanding is that the filibuster rule still applies when dealing with a Supreme Court justice. Am I right?
It only applies if you wanted to apply to anything. It's a made-up rule. All you need is a majority vote in the Senate to confirm the Supreme Court nominee. All that other BS is exactly that. BS. It's a rule. It's a rule that's meant to be broken. The Democrats break them, and the Republicans allow it, and they turn right back around, and when they're in charge, well, we like the rule. We're going to play by the rules. Screw that. Democrats never play by the rules. So it's time to stop with this veiled of just, we are so statesmanlike and we're so friendly and we're this and we're that. Bull crap.
Yeah.
That's a crap. It's not. It's not written down in the Constitution. The Constitution says all you need is a majority. Okay, you have the majority. It's time to start to govern like you have a majority.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We've got to go to our break here. It's a short segment where we've got Jonathan Dunn hanging out here in the wings waiting for us. So we'll be right back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate.
Middle America doesn't have an anger problem. It's got an idiot problem. The Conservative Syndicate, doing our part to eradicate the disease of idiocracy.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. Visit his website at robertcardosalive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosalive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Attention taxpayers. If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you'll get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
My job is not to represent the world. My job is to represent the United States of America.
Am I not speaking English?
The ConservativeSyndicate.net, where we speak only one language, American.
All right. Hey, we're back, and this is the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos, and we have with us right now, all the way from the land of the Blarney over there, Ireland, Jonathan Dunn. How are you doing with us? I guess it was about 11 o'clock over in your neck of the woods, right? Or midnight by now?
Top of the morning to you, gents. Yeah, it's 11:15.
My God, you're a better man than me, Gunga Din, I'll tell you.
I'm used to it. My time clock is generally on the stateside, so it's good.
Well, you know, my time over in Ireland, by this time I was well entrenched into the pubs over there. The one thing I always liked about Ireland, it seems like at 7 o'clock everything turns into a pub.
Mm-hmm. Or before it. So, yeah, Guinness is big over here.
Yeah, great place to visit. Don't know if I'd want to live there, though. Anyway, having said that, another discussion for another day. All right. Hey, there's a lot of stuff going on over here this week, and a lot of anticipation, I think, is not really going to lead too much down the line in terms of progress for the Trump administration. But what out of everything that's happening right now, we have the Supreme Court nomination starting their hearings today. The FBI, James Comey, came in front of Congress today. We have, let's see, what else we got out there, Joey? I know we got something else going on. It's kind of out of my eye here. You had also mentioned, Jonathan, a discussion, I guess, on The View last week that took place about abortion.
Yes, my Blaze colleague Tommy Lahren made some comments about abortion, and there's actually a recent update. She has now been suspended from the Blaze. So, yeah, she made some bad comments, and she wrapped herself in the label of conservatism, and then proceeded to talk about unconservative principles, and do a good old-fashioned political flip-flop on her views 3 months ago. So it was an interesting story to fill. So we can talk about any of those subjects, whichever you want to start with.
All right, well, let's go with The View, since we've already brought that up, and that'd probably be the easiest to breach here, kind of break the ice. What exactly took place?
Well, so Tommy has got a bit of a platform. Obviously, she was on OAN News, and then she joined the Blaze, and she got a bit of fame, and she's now doing the media circuit. So if you've watched her over the last sort of 3-6 months, you've seen her do a lot of interviews on sort of mainstream media. She was on Trevor Noah, she was on Bill Maher, she was on Bill O'Reilly. So she's doing the tour, and she was on The View last Friday, and basically she said that she's now pro-choice, and that she's pro-choice because she's basically come up with a new label. It's not constitutionalist, it's constitutional. And basically she believes in limited government, and she wants the government out of our guns, and wants the government out of our body. I released a special show on the Blaze today, defending the traditional conservative principles, because you cannot believe in the traditional conservative philosophy when you wrap yourself, especially when you talk about the Constitution. The preamble of the Constitution is very clear when it talks about your prosperity, which is future generations. Also, you cannot have a conversation about the Constitution without understanding its foundation, and the foundation of the Constitution is the Bill of Rights. And your founders are very clear on this matter. They said, what was the first right that was enshrined from God, or nature's law or nature's God, and that was life. We can debate all day long and have differences about taxes, about global warming, about the size and scope of government, but your founders knew, as traditional conservatives know, if you don't have a respect for life, everything else is it's irrelevant, basically. But what I did find very interesting about her own comments was, right before she spoke about getting the government out of her body, she spoke about getting the government out of her guns. Again, Tommy needs to do a lot of more reading on the subject, especially regarding your founders. Your founders, when you read the Declaration of Independence, don't speak about a God like me and you worship as a Christian God, or an Allah God, or a stone, whatever. They speak about nature's law and nature's God. The Second Amendment isn't about guns. When you break it down, the founders are very clear. The founders saw the Second Amendment, yes, it's the right to bear arms, but they break it to nature's law, which is the right to self-defense. When you hear what Tommy said, so she said, I believe in limited government because I want the government out of my guns and out of my body. It's ironic that she said those words, because so you're okay with wrapping yourself in the Constitution and saying, I want a right to gun to protect myself as consistent with the right to self-defense, but an unborn baby doesn't have that right.
Yeah, when we talk about this, I was listening. I listened to a short blurb the other day from Dennis Prager about abortion, and he was approaching it. He said, let's not even talk about the legality of it. Let's not talk about the constitutionality of it. Let's talk about the morality of it. And the idea that a woman can say, I have a right to my body, but how does that extend to the body of the fetus that she's carrying? It's like, you may have the right to your body, but you don't have the right, the virtual right, to decide what to do with somebody else's life, which is the moral argument against abortion, is that you're taking another life. And just because that life, he says, it's not, I forget how he says, it's not the woman, the baby does not belong to the woman, the baby is in the woman. And that's, so that presents the moral argument here, that if you decide to take that life, so what you're basically saying is you have the right to decide to take another life because that life is currently inside your body. And so it's like, but there's two different lives. You can't say that they're the same, one and the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. And I don't get the abortion argument, especially when you look at all the polls. So, like, if you look at all the polls and take them for what they're worth, but like all these Gallup polls who do like the, different parts in life, not politics, and the standard general consensus in America usually is, and it's by quite a wide margin, is that after 20 weeks of a pregnancy, like 80-85%, obviously it varies and fluctuates from poll to poll, don't believe abortion is good. It's a good thing to do, or it's right, or it's moral. The one thing I always never got with that argument was, okay, so what happens in that split second when the baby goes from age 19 weeks, 6 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds to turning over to the baby being 20 weeks old and even? What happens in that split second that says, if you do it on 19 weeks, it's okay. If you do it on 20 weeks, it's not okay. So I think a lot of thinking needs to happen on this subject. And honestly, we have to have discussions. The reason I did a special show, I've been dealing with it, I've been responding about this online because I thought her comments were disgusting. But also, she implied an insult to people who would share my types of views because she said she didn't want to be hypocritical. implying that anyone who believes in the Constitution and is pro-life is a hypocrite. I think we're the consistent ones. You can have any opinion you want, just don't wrap yourself in a conservative label, because that is not a conservative principle. But I think we have a duty and a responsibility to stand and have our names in the book of life and do it in the best way possible, because, you know, from a Christian point of view, God is going to hold us all responsible, but what are future generations going to say about us when they see the millions upon millions of unborn babies each and every year? We look back on times, you know, a popular one is we look back in 1930s, 1940s Germany and kind of go, did they really know Hitler was that bad? That's a discussion we have now. What is future generations going to be say about us? So I encourage every conservative to speak out about this. And the reason I think it's such a big deal is because she has made it now mainstream. The liberal media will twist this and basically say, hey, this is now the standard conservative principle that you are believe in the Constitution, but you're pro-choice. So everyone else who doesn't have that view is going to be further ostracized than the media. We have to make a stand and stand up and say, no, that is not a conservative principle. Tommy, you can be pro-choice all you want, but you're not. That is not a conservative principle. This is the conservative principle, because if you base it on traditional conservatism, it's about limited government and it's about your founding fathers and it's about what is morally and eternally right. Anything you see from your founding fathers, whether if you just want to read the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence, but if you want to go further, all the way back to what your founders actually said at the time about this, about life, they are entirely consistent. You have that right. There is no gray area here. There is no, well, they could have said something different, or it's open to interpretation. I'm sorry, it's not. Your founders were crystal clear on this issue. There is no debate. They believed in the right to life. And we as a generation have to make that distinction and make that argument in the best loving way and respond and hopefully be the generation that wins this argument once and for all.
Well, you know, I'm glad you articulated that way, because this is a discussion or an issue that is rising up very rapidly here. The Trump election, the election of Donald Trump, exposed not only the complete corruption of the left and the media, it exposed the major schism that the Republican Party has today, and that is this cross-branding of the label conservative. Lindsey Graham is a moderate when it comes to social issues, but he's a neocon when it comes to defense issues, and therefore he's a conservative when he's in his neocon posture, and he's a moderate when he's in his his more liberal-leaning posture. And this is what the media uses. I'm glad you brought that up, because this is something I see more and more occurring here, is that the brand or the label of conservative is used by the media and by the left when they want to portray the views held by a certain person as being, very Neanderthal, very out of touch, very outdated, that kind of thing. But then that same person can turn around and do, like this particular lady, and say, well, I happen to agree this way, which to me strikes me as probably more of a libertarian view than I would say a hardcore conservative view, because you can't. It's like, my argument with people is this. I get the same argument with Christians. How can you tell me you're a Christian and yet tell me that you condone abortion or you condone homosexuality? How do you reconcile those things and still have the gall to come and tell me that you are a believer in the writings of Jesus Christ? It doesn't, you're picking and choosing, you're cherry picking what you want to believe, and you're putting your own label to it. And that is what a liberal does. They redefine, they deconstruct, redefine, put their own labels on what they want to be. And that is the growing concern here in America, and why the Republican Party has deteriorated as much as it has. And what I'm seeing to an epidemic degree, are Republicans who tell me they're conservatives and cannot even explain to you what that looks like. That is what really concerns me.
I agree, and we're as a I'm not a conservative. I don't belong to any label because I've seen conservatism watered down, and I equate it to if people like John McCain and John Boehner and Paul Ryan are conservatives, then they're not traditional conservatives by any stretch of the imagination. But if that's what conservatism isn't this year, I'm not a conservative. I don't belong to it. But I expect the term conservative to be attacked and watered down from the left. You expect that, and you respond in kind where appropriate is. However, what I have a big problem is when people on the right start watering it down, people like Tommy Lahren, people like politicians, you see it all the time. John McCain, remember John McCain's last election, he was like a big hawk on the border. He was the most conservative person ever that ever lived. And then he got into DC again and he became John McCain that we all know and don't like. So we have to make an argument for conservatism. But I would say, because people are saying, a few people have said to me, Tommy is a libertarian. Tommy's not a libertarian by any stretch of the imagination. I have yet to see one libertarian principle exposed by that lady, if she even knows what libertarian actually means or actually does or stands for. Traditional conservative principles are the Constitution. So what we need to do is actually get back to the Constitution if you want to be a conservative in a traditional sense and actually understand what the Constitution says about enumerated powers. It is frightening to me the amount of people in the media, the amount of Americans today, the amount of American politicians today who say, I'm a conservative of some way, shape, or form, and don't know enumerated powers. And then they go and say, well, I'm for the Constitution and for limited government, and then we'll go and defend the stimulus package, we'll go defend Trump care, we'll go defend any type of health care, we'll go defend stimulus packages, we'll go defend Social Security. You get any of those lists, where do they see them under enumerated powers under the Constitution? They're not there, but they'll still call themselves a conservative. So I think the biggest challenge is for real conservatives to stand up and say, this is exactly what we stand for. Do you stand for a repeal of Obamacare? Do you stand for a repeal and a replace of Obamacare? The Republicans have been running on it since 2010 of a repeal of it. They have to do that. And I think we need to get back and make those arguments. I'm a firm believer Maggie Thatcher was right all those years ago, and I think if I could offer one piece of advice, it'd be follow Maggie Thatcher's advice. First you win the argument, then you win the election. The truth of the matter is many Republicans on all levels, from media, politicians and people, have been focused on elections for far too long and not on arguments. And we've seen this watered down. I'm not sure if you remember our last call that we spoke. We spoke about what conservatism used to mean in a budgetary process in 2002 and 2003 and what it means today. It's been totally different and totally watered down. We need to start winning those arguments of what conservatism really means.
Yeah, Jonathan, we got to take a break here. I hate to interrupt you here. I hope you can hold that thought. We'll be right back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate.
Red State Talk Radio, WRS Cleveland.
Red State Talk Radio is now available as a voice command on your Amazon Echo and Echo Dot by simply saying, Alexa, play Red State Talk Radio.
Red State Talk Radio on TuneIn.
Are you behind on your taxes? The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected. If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote at 800-790-4294. 800-790-4294.
You know, sometimes when you compare prices on products, you think to yourself, what difference does it make? The rates are all about the same anyway, but sometimes the rates are very different. Let me give you an example where there's a huge difference in pricing between companies. Vehicle protection plans. Look, if your car is 4 years or older, having a vehicle protection plan is a no-brainer. The trick is not to overpay for it. Here are the facts. The average price of a vehicle protection plan is $2,800, while the price of a TOCO warranty vehicle protection plan for most vehicles is just $1,500. The average down payment on a vehicle protection plan is $299. With TOCO warranty, there's no down payment. The average monthly payment on a vehicle protection plan is more than $160 a month. With TOCO, the average monthly payment is just $49. To get a highly rated vehicle protection plan at a great low rate, call TOCO Warranty at 1-800-987-1519. That's 1-800-987-1519. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, this is Leonora Cravota from Red State Talk Radio for MyPillow. I used to have trouble sleeping. MyPillow changed all that. I now fall asleep within moments of my head touching my pillow. That's how comfortable MyPillow is with its patented interlocking fill. MyPillow stays cool and does not go flat. Plus, it's machine washable and dryable. MyPillow has a 10-year warranty and a 60-day comfort guarantee. MyPillow is also the official pillow of the National Sleep Foundation, and it's made right here in the USA. MyPillow is now offering Red State Talk Radio listeners a 4-pack special with 2 premium standard or queen pillows and 2 go anywhere pillows. That's 4 pillows for the price of 1. To take advantage of this special offer, call 1-800-961-9194 and ask for promo code RedState. That's 1-800-961-9194, promo code RedState. Put sleepless nights behind you with MyPillow, the most comfortable pillow you will ever own.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
If you've got joint pain, let me ask you a question. Would you like a high-quality knee, back, shoulder, or ankle brace at little or no cost? Now, just in case your reception isn't great, let me ask you again. Would you like a pain-relieving knee, back, shoulder, or ankle brace at little or no cost? Well, if you have Medicare insurance, you could qualify for these pain-relieving braces at little or no cost. And these are high-quality braces. They are very comfortable, and they've helped thousands relieve their pain. Now, I'd like you to imagine going on vacation, playing with your grandkids, just living your life again without pain. The Mobility Hotline is a referral service that connects folks with Medicare coverage and other insurance to accredited companies offering pain-relieving braces at little or no cost. And don't you worry about the Medicare paperwork. They'll handle it all for you. And they'll deliver your braces for free. Call the Mobility Hotline now. The call's free. 1-800-557-6150. 1-800-557-6150. 1-800-557-6150.
Are you struggling with addiction or alcohol problems? If you're depressed, drinking, and using drugs, you may need help, and your insurance may offer coverage.
I knew I could get myself out of this. I just needed some hope and some help.
I took the first step to recovery when I made the call.
Call the Addiction, Hope, and Helpline now for a free assessment with someone who cares. Call 800-518-1573, 800-518-1573.
I feel like I'm losing control. I'm afraid I'll lose my job or even my family.
Call now for hope and help with proven, gentle recovery programs.
I never thought that I could be somebody who didn't drink and use drugs.
I'm in recovery, getting the help I need.
Call the Addiction, Hope, and Helpline now for a free assessment with someone who cares. Call 800-518-1573, 800-518-1573.
Red State Talk Radio. Real radio for real Americans.
That America must put its own citizens first, because only then can we truly make America great again.
And now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives.
All right, hey, we are back, and this is the Conservative Syndicate, the real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos. I want to wrap up the conversation here on Tommy Lahren from the Blaze being suspended last week. I'm going to ask you very directly, Jonathan. I know you can't perhaps answer for Glenn Beck, but why only suspension? Why wasn't she dismissed?
I don't know. I'm only reading the reports that she has been suspended. I can't speak for Glenn or anyone at the Blaze. That is totally up to them how they deal with things.
Okay,
I was to guess, I would imagine contract law has a large part to play with it.
Well, I'm just saying, looking at the articles that I'm seeing out there, the Daily Caller that she was reports that she was suspended for at least 1 week. And I'm thinking, with all the media stuff that Glenn Beck put out there about being very upset about what she said and did, to only be suspended rather than dismissed seems, for lack of a better way of putting it, kind of maybe trying to protect his ratings a bit.
Well, I don't know it wouldn't be about ratings, because anyone who watches, I don't know how many people who would watch Tommy and would watch Glenn, because they are polar opposites in the way they present and what they talk about and in the research they present.
Well, they're saying that she is one of the top shows on the Blaze, and that's why I'm wondering. I'm being very just forthright about this. I'm looking at this, and this sounds like something MSNBC would do to Brian Williams. You said or did something that you got that isn't in line with what we want here at the network, and so we're going to dock you pay for a week.
Well, there's a big difference between what Brian Williams did and what she did. Her comments are disgraceful and insulting to conservatism, but she didn't lie, per se. She's just changed her opinion. So, and Glenn has a long track record of hiring people who he doesn't necessarily agree with. So, I can't speak. I don't have any insider information, and I can't answer. But we watch this space and see how things go over the next couple of days and weeks.
Yeah, this kind of stuff is what gives me pause when I hear just what we were talking about earlier. The idea that we want to brandish that conservative mantle, but maybe only a little bit, that kind of thing. That's what if somebody like this was on my network and she came out with these kind of views, she'd be gone. And I don't care how popular she was. If you're going to sit there and tell me that you're a conservative and you're going to represent the views of this show, and then you're going to turn around and go 180 on me, I might have you on if I want to debate with somebody about the opposite point of view, but I'm not going to carry you on my show as a contributor to take forth the conservative message. That's what I'm driving at.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is you got to bear in mind is it's not entirely up to Glenn Beck. The Blaze is owned by Glenn is obviously a big say, but he doesn't, and he talks about this regularly. He does not do the hiring and firing on radio or on TV. So it's there's a lot of things at play here, and I don't have any insider information, so I don't know. But it would be interesting to see how this unfolds.
Yeah. Well, moving on. I wanted to talk to you. Mentioned to us in your notes that the G20 has removed free trade from their platform. This totally got by us. I didn't even pick up on this. Can you explain to us what this is about?
Sure. So there's been a lot of behind the scenes talk, and basically the G20 is the financial leaders of the world's biggest economies come together and they kind of make pledges, and a lot of it's boring kind of stuff. It's stuff that you kind of expect to hear, and it's usually talking points. But ever since Donald Trump has been elected president, there's been a lot of behind the scenes politicking between the United States, because obviously Donald Trump, one of his campaign promises was, and at least talking about openly, was about tariffs and sort of a more protectionist regime, and he talks about being a president for America only. Well, there was a lot of over the weekend and over the last week, there's been a lot of politicking behind the scenes between America and Germany. America has been looking for the G20 to drop the free trade pledge, and Germany has been fighting to keep it. Now, there's obviously a lot of politics behind the scenes for different reasons why they want to do it, but basically the financial leaders have come together and have actually dropped the pledge to free trade, which behind the scenes is seen as a major loss for Germany and a major win for the Trump administration. So it's for me, as someone who is a very, very big supporter of free trade, this is not a good thing to have when you have the 20 of the top biggest economies and financial leaders saying, yeah, we don't believe in free trade anymore. That signals to me that the current weak economies of America, of England, of Europe, and of pretty much everywhere in the world are going to get potentially a lot weaker, and there's a lot more pain to come.
So we're looking at the advancement of globalism over the economy, right?
Well, this is an advancement of nationalism more than globalism over free trade. So, and I'm personally very worried about this, because free trade, first of all, is the most successful and most thing that has made the world advance the way it has. There's no other way to look at it. Before type things, America existed and embraced free trade as big part of American exceptionalism. There were theories like socialism, there were theories like mercantilism, where economies just grew in a small bit, and then your population grew, and then basically that growth was eaten up by the population growth, and then you would just grow another bit. These were theories of the day before America embraced free trade and America existed. Free trade comes along and look at what's happened in the last 200 years. You know, if you look at any advancement, whether you look at farming, whether you look at travel, whether you look at food, you look at how the advancements from, let's just take an arbitrary time, the time of Christ till the 1800s, there's very little difference. America comes along through the idea of and belief of the individual and free market economics, and look what's happened in the last 2,000 years. You've gone to the moon, you've gone to the swamp, you have technology, we have indoor plumbing, we have electricity, we have internet where a guy can talk to you 6,000 miles away. It's troubling. But the biggest thing is, we talked earlier on about winning the argument. The thing I'm most passionate about, and I spend a lot of time in my show talking about, is economics and free market economics, because if you watch the way any type of economic argument is portrayed on all sides, left and right, in the media and in discussions, it's usually a collectivist argument. Economics is not about the collective or about a group of people. Economics at its fundamental core, especially free market economics, is about the individual. Your purchasing power and the right to do what you want with your money. And when you boil down protectionist tariff policies, it's basically saying you're okay with a collective government saying you can't buy from John, I can't buy from you, John or Joe, because guess what? My country doesn't like your country. And when you believe in free markets and you believe usually in freedom, you kind of go, no, if I want to buy something from John and Joe and it's my money and I've earned it, I'll buy it from John and Joe and no one can stop me. It's my right to do so. And that's what I'm trying to break down, because there's not very many voices for free market economics out there at the minute.
Okay, so if I'm seeing or hearing this right, the narrative that's being put forth is that Donald Trump is not in favor of free trade? Is that what's being reported out there?
Well, it's not per se that he's not in favor of free trade. It's that he's more open to protectionist policies. Okay. And that is true. He said it many times. He said it directly and indirectly on many times on the campaign trail and as president. And that's a very change in tone. You cannot be. I don't know anybody who can be for free market economics in your heart and then talk about tariffs, because it's kind of like saying, it's like the Tommy debate. Can you be a conservative and then go out and talk about liberal philosophy as a good thing? I don't think you can, if you want to be consistent. So whether he's a free market person or whether he's a tariff person or whether he's in between, that only the proof will be in the pudding of what he actually acts like. But he is giving the world and everyone in America the view that he's open to protectionist tariff policies.
Okay, all right. That clears it up a little bit for me, because that really sounds so counter to what I understand Trump to represent. So we'll have to roll this over here during the break here, and maybe I'll have another question for you here when we get back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. I'm John Matthews with Joe Hakos, and we've got Jonathan Dunn with us. We'll be right back.
The Strident Conservative. We could agree with you, but then we'd both be wrong.
Hello, America. This is David Leach, the Strident Conservative. Town halls were filled to capacity with frustrated taxpayers demanding changes to the healthcare system, as members of Congress stood before their constituents in a vain attempt to defend their massive government-run solution to the problem. Meetings were heated, with shouts of "do your job" directed at the feckless politicians. Often they would reply with accusations of their own leveled against the people they are sworn to serve, such as these words from a representative in Texas, quote, "I understand why you're so frustrated. You don't know how to listen," end quote. Yeah, passing Obamacare was a sad period in U.S. history. Unfortunately, what I just described happened just this past weekend, and the legislation wasn't Obamacare, it was Ryan Care/Trump Care. The repeal and name-only Republicans spent a great deal of their time over the weekend defending Obamacare 2.0. Paul Ryan himself went on some of the Sunday talk shows defending the fake repeal legislation ahead of an anticipated Thursday House vote. Quote, I feel very good about it, actually, because the president has become a great closer, end quote. Ah, yes, the president. Despite efforts by many so-called conservatives in the media, this new version of Obamacare is all on Trump. He was actively involved in creating it, and he recently stated he supports it 1,000%. Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price confirmed that Trump never intended to fully repeal Obamacare. Quote, that is not something that the president is willing to do. It's not something he said he would do, end quote. Well, not only did he say he would do it, he also promised that he would give insurance to everyone at government expense if necessary. The Republicans, or should I call them the Trumplicans, are working to finish the job started by Obama, but because it has Trump's name on it now, we're supposed to rejoice. If you have a comment on this topic, visit stridentconservative.com.
That America must put its own citizens first, because only then can we truly make America great again.
Am I not speaking English?
The ConservativeSyndicate.net, where we speak only one language, American.
All right. Hey, we're back, and this is the Conservative Syndicate. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos, and we've got Jonathan Dunn with us today. Jonathan has his own podcast out there on The Blaze, and he writes for Freedom's Disciple, his website there, and you want to check those things out. We have links on our website to Freedom's Disciple, by the way. Jonathan, I want to play one other angle here on this free trade issue that we were just talking about before the break here. And I want to try to give you an analogy of how I see how Trump looks at things, okay? I'm online, and I see something online that is being offered to me for free. And I say, okay, I want to get that. So I go to that company, and I say, yeah, send me your free product. And they say to me, okay, all you need to do is send us $10 for shipping and handling. At that point, that product is not free. And so I sit there and I say to them, what, you told me it was a free product. And you say, no, well, yeah, but you have to pay for the shipping and the handling of it, which is $10. That, to me, equates into the analogy of a tariff. And what it sounds like to me is that Donald Trump is saying he wants free trade, but he doesn't want these tariffs involved because the tariffs skew the playing field. It's not free trade if we have to pay extra to get imports. Does that make sense?
Sure, but the equation then is, how do you get around to get to free trade? Do you get to, if you believe in free trade as a fundamental principle, then you follow it because it's tried, tested, and true. You don't then say, well, someone else doesn't play by the rules, so we're not going to play by the rules. And that's the question that's happening in the world and in America right now. For me, the left is based around the mantra of man's law, which is, hey, the ends justify the means. We know where we want to get, and we're going to do everything we can to get it. Traditionally in America, it's been the opposite. It's been, the right has been, and the conservatives have been, no, we believe in these principles, and these principles are eternal and true. Now, we can disagree which principles we think are eternal and true, but you follow them principles. And for me, again, economics is about the collectivist, is not about the collectivist, it's about the individual. If my purchasing power to buy something from you is not dependent on whether Trump thinks something is fair or not, it's up to me. If I'm willing to pay that $10 shipping, then that's up to me. If I'm not, then I go elsewhere. And that's what economics is about. It's about the purchasing power of the individual. And that is something, you might not like it, but that's something I'm going to defend every day as much as I possibly can. You may not like it or agree with it, but that is what free market economics is ultimately about.
Well, it's not that I disagree with what you're saying, because the idea here is that as an individual, if I really want that free product, I'm going to pay that $10 shipping and handling to get it, and I'm going to that's just the cost of getting the item that I want. It just seems to me that what I'm hearing from Trump is the idea that we're saying, okay, look, you want to import something into this country, and there's a tariff involved in it, which means you're in literally jacking up the price. Now, what I want to do as Donald Trump is I want to create more competition, so I want to lower the overhead of bringing that stuff in here and create competition, which should expand the free market. That's how I see it. Does that make sense?
Sure, absolutely. And like, if you want to, there are plenty of things, if you want to increase competition in America, there are plenty of things you can do before you, like a tariff should be one of the last things logically you should approach. You know, if you want to change the way competition in America and you really want to grow the American economy, there are very simple steps that you can do. First of all, you can, it depends on which is your personal favorite, you can start with taxes. You know, it's incredible, the corporation tax in America. America, one of the most industrial powerhouses of all time, has the 5th largest corporation tax in the world. Imagine America's corporation tax is roughly 35%. Imagine if you, and I can't believe I say this, but it's the only time on the topic I'll ever say this. Imagine if you followed the example of Ireland and had a 12.5% corporation tax. Can you imagine the boom overnight that would allow? Can you imagine if you reduced the tax code and made it more simplified, where instead of a company, and especially a new company, you know, let's just talk this out about economics. If you're a new business in America tomorrow, let's say, hey, John and Joe, I come to you and go, hey, guys, I got this great idea. And forget what the idea is, but we're going to set it up. The logical thing is that we would think the first thing we have to hire is, well, we got to produce the product or the service, or we got to find someone, a sales rep, or we got to find someone to manage it. No, in America right now, the first person you hire, if you have any sense, is either one of two people. One, a person to make you legally compliant with the laws and regulations in America, or two, is a lobbyist. That is backwards. That is asinine to the entrepreneurial spirit of America. Then you can start breaking the regulations down, which in fairness, Trump has given some guidelines in his last budget, the budget he released last week, where he's going to cut the EPA, and that will have a benefit to different employers, like coal miners and energy producers and different other people as well. But we have to wait to see exactly what is in them. But he's given that kind of hint that he's going to be open to that. So I would say start with taxes and regulations, and that itself will create a boom. And then what we need to do is bring the argument to the people and then create that entrepreneurial spirit. Again, if you go back to the polls, the entrepreneurial spirit and the amount of startups that are happening each day in America are not as at our all-time lows. We need to change that. We need to bring it back. We need to change the narrative that says, you know, I don't want you to be in the middle class. I don't want you to be average. I want you to be rich. I want you to be successful. Because guess what? When you're successful, you raise the tide for other people through innovation, through, hey, now I have this, whether it's an extra medical care or medical service or an extra piece of technology, you're making my life easier. You're then contributing to your society because you're buying houses, you're buying food, you're getting married, you're going on vacations, you're contributing tax dollars. If we change that narrative overnight, that will make America a hell of a lot more competitive than it has been since Ronald Reagan. But the starting point is not tariffs. And that's the troubling thing for me. And I hope that people around Donald Trump, if he listens to them, I hope people are making that argument that says, look, you know, you might be right on tariffs. I will personally always disagree with them. But let's deal with things we can deal with first, regulations and taxes, and get that corporation tax down.
Well, I can't argue with that. That's a logical process of thinking. Joe, do you have a comment on this?
Yeah, I just think that's exactly what's going to happen. He's got to do it in its time. He's got to play with these idiots in D.C. So, yeah, he can cut back on the EPA regulations and everything. It comes all the way down to agriculture, the farmers. I mean, when you have a puddle out in your pasture and the Bureau of Land Management wants to call it a navigable waterway. It's ridiculous. So those kind of things are going away. So we'll wait and see how that works. I wish he would cut back the corporate tax rate down to not 25%, where that's the number I've been hearing. Let's cut it down. Let's cut it down to 6%. I'm sorry. Then we'll see the rest of the world come screaming back to America. That's the real that's the real thing I see is. People are like, whoa, oh my goodness, oh, the sky's falling, Donald Trump is in power. Well, okay.
Let's see how that...
Look over here, because, that feckless Obama policies are not going to happen anymore.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, we're at the end of our time here with Jonathan. I'm really glad we got you on. I'm glad you got over your little bout with the bad food back there. If I ever make it back there again, you're going to have to tell me where not to go.
That was in a bad way for the weekend, gents. I apologize for missing that day. That was a 3-day thing, and that was I won't be eating there again.
Okay, I want to give you about a minute. You got about a minute or so. I want you to plug what you're doing out there so the people can find you.
Sure. Well, you can find my show on The Blaze. If you look up Freedom's Disciple, it's on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and our Google Play Music and iTunes. If you look up Freedom's Disciple, you'll find me. A new show gets released every Saturday at noon Eastern. There's a show that just launched today. It's a special show. It's about Tommy. It's addressing more comments about her abortion comments, about her redefining conservatism, which you can't do. And obviously then my big project outside The Blaze is I'm the head of radio for Lanterns Radio, which your show is rebroadcast on and archived on. We're always looking for new talent, looking for new radio people, looking for new writers. So if you check us out, lanterns.buzz, you'll see a lot of great content, and we've hired a lot of new radio hosts over the last couple of weeks, and a lot more exciting ones to come. So check us out and get in touch if you want to do it. I'm on Twitter at Freedom Disciple or Facebook at Freedom's Disciple. You can find me. I'm not hard to find.
All right, my friend. I really appreciate it. Now, you live in Dublin, right?
Say that again?
You live in Dublin?
Yes, sir.
Okay. As my wife and I might be heading out there within the next year or so, I'm going to contact you. We're going to go out and get some fish and chips together.
No worries. But when you get here, or when you know your dates, just drop me a message and I'll hook you up, brother.
All right, my friend. All right. Thanks so much for taking time out. I know it's late back there. Enjoy the rest of your night. I hope you get some good sleep.
Appreciate you too, gents. Keep fighting a good fight. God bless.
All right. God bless you too. Okay, guys, we're at the end of the show. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll have Don Dix with us. Audrey Russo will be checking in, and we'll be continuing some of the stuff that's going on here. God bless you. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Conservative Syndicate, the nationally acclaimed, globally syndicated, politically incorrect talk show that seeks to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We want to make you aware you can find and access all our show archives at our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, as well as our broadcast stations and times. That's theconservativesyndicate.net. We so appreciate you taking the time to tune in, and we so look forward to continuing to bring you the best in uncompromised talk radio available on the net today. And remember, folks, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down in life. It only matters how many times you get up. I'm John Matthews, along with Joe Hako, signing off until next time right here at the Conservative Syndicate. God bless you, and may God continue to bless America.